Firstly, I would like to thank the organisers of today's conference for inviting me to speak briefly about my experience in business in this area over the last 5 years. I started Grounded after seeing the proliferation of coffee shops in Belfast when I was studying at university. I identified a gap in the market for a socially orientated cafe, giving the public an alternative venue to socialise. As with any business, it was very tough and still is. But we listen to our customers, give them what they want, and so far they've responded favourably. I think this is why I've been asked to talk today, because we're a successful and active part of not just the business community, but the wider community. One project we are proud to work on was the setting up of a Fair Trade Steering Committee, which was tasked with promoting the principles of fair trade to schools, colleges, organisations and businesses in the Newry area. The final aim, achieving fair trade city status. There are a number of criteria to fulfil: the minimum amount of traders, a flagship retailer, which was Grounded espresso bars, and encouraging local schools and colleges to promote the principles. Newry was successful in joining cities like Dublin, Cork and Belfast with fair trade status. Fair trade works on an all-Ireland basis. Why? Because it's sensible, logical and efficient with regards to time, money and resources. It would be unjustifiable to have it north and south. For me as a consumer, the border is a nuisance. It's a visit to the Bureau of Change if you want to go for a meal in Carlingford. It's an extra charge at the bank machine, and it's a bigger charge whenever your network switches to O2IE. As a business person, it's more than a nuisance. It's a reason not to expand into the south. In 2008, I believe Grounded was ready for an additional unit. My Newry cafe was gathering momentum, and I had the urge and determination to expand my business. I began modifying my business plan, ascertaining costs and securing funding to open my second unit. I looked around at around 10 retail units, narrowing it down to just 2. One in Boucher Crescent in Belfast, the other town centre unit in Dundalk. Both viable sites, large footfall, both similar in size and cost. I made my decision in early 2008 to open my second cafe in Boucher Crescent in Belfast. The reason was simple. It was much easier to expand to Belfast, even though there was a great opportunity for Grounded in Dundalk, a very similar town to Newry, similar demographic and the same void which Grounded had filled 2 years previous. So why did I go north? It was easier. Adding new employees to an already existing payroll. Calculating VAT on 2 units was the same as calculated on 1. I was familiar with the rules and regulations around employing staff, health and safety and so on. It was just less hassle. After 5 years, I still get overwhelmed with the legislative and taxation changes from one authority, never mind the 2. There would be 2 groups of suppliers using 2 different currencies, which would ultimately lead to 2 structures of pricing in the business. For me, this was simply too much added and unrequired duplication for essentially the exact same business, serving the same people. It was handier for me to do in a 1-hour commute to Belfast than the 20 minutes to Dundalk. Newry has for the last number of years been touted as the shopping mecca of Ireland, with visitors coming far and wide to avail of perceived discounts from big name traders and to a lesser extent local independent retailers. It's great for Newry and those who have secured employment as a result. Had I opened my cafe in Dundalk in 2008, I dare say I'd have viewed this differently. The current taxation and pricing on items differently across the border leads to an unsustainable flow from one part of the country to another. The perception from those I chat to in Belfast is that my Newry cafe must be flat out with cross-border trade, and this is not the case. And while Newry seems to be benefiting at present, I believe a more concerted effort should be made to amalgamate various bodies and institutions, which would lead to a more sustainable trade north and south. It can be seen there is an effort to create partnerships in trade, facilitating businesses working together north and south, encouraging, giving advice and supplying funding. Funding exists for businesses to export products or services from north to south and from south to north. In my opinion, this seems to be selling local businesses a wee bit short. Again, my opinion, it would be more logical to pool resources and compete internationally. Wouldn't this be a more beneficial and long-term proposal for businesses north and south? This is what I've experienced over the last 5 years. I'm not an expert by any means, but as a person whose main role in this business at present is to drive sales and, just as importantly, cut costs of production by whatever means possible, it seems logical. And from a business person, albeit with only 5 years experience, it would seem that the amalgamation of bodies north and south would be an economically sound proposal and one which would result in a more sustainable region. Thank you.